In the dim, echoing depths of the lunaran dungeon, where the air hung heavy with the metallic tang of ancient chains and the faint hum of energy fields, Captain Alex Thorne stood victorious yet weary. His boots echoed against the cold stone floor, each step a testament to the brutal path he'd carved through the alien guards. The human warrior, with his rugged jawline shadowed by a day's stubble and eyes like stormy seas, had infiltrated this forbidden fortress on a desperate mission. Earth was on the brink, its colonies ravaged by the Lunaran Empire's relentless expansion. Alex, a lone operative from the Human Federation, had been sent to sabotage their core reactor, but fate had twisted his plans into something far more intimate and dangerous. He wiped sweat from his brow, his tactical suit torn and scorched from laser fire. The blade in his hand, a jagged, improvised weapon scavenged from a fallen guard, gleamed under the flickering blue lights. It wasn't much, but it had served him well in the close-quarters brawl that left bodies strewn behind him. Now, as he approached the final cell, his heart pounded not just from adrenaline, but from the unexpected pull of curiosity. Whispers from intercepted transmissions had hinted at a prisoner here, someone of royal blood, chained not for rebellion but for defying the Empire's iron-fisted emperor. The door hissed open at his override code, revealing a chamber bathed in ethereal glow. There she was, Princess Vexa, heir to the Lunaran throne, bound by shimmering energy cuffs that pulsed with a soft, hypnotic light. Her form was a vision that could stop any man's breath. Long, flowing hair as white as starlight cascading over shoulders of porcelain skin. Her body curved in ways that spoke of both grace and untamed power. Small, pointed ears peeked through her tresses, adding an elfin allure that made her seem like a dream woven from the cosmos itself. She wore a gown of iridescent fabric, clinging to her like a second skin, its low neckline and high slits revealing just enough to ignite the imagination, elegant yet provocatively regal, as if designed to command attention in court or captivate in secrecy. Vexa's eyes, a piercing violet that seemed to hold the secrets of distant galaxies, locked onto Alex as he entered. She didn't cower. Instead, she lifted her chin defiantly, her full lips curving into a faint, knowing smile. Chains rattled softly as she shifted, her posture exuding a mix of vulnerability and seduction. "So, the human intruder has made it this far," she murmured, her voice a sultry whisper that carried the melodic lilt of her alien tongue, translated seamlessly through his neural implant. "I've heard tales of your kind, fierce, unyielding, with hearts that burn like supernovas. But tell me, warrior, what do you intend to do now that you've found me?" Alex froze for a moment, his grip tightening on the blade. He hadn't expected this. The mission briefings painted Lunaran royals as cold tyrants, not this enigmatic beauty who regarded him with an intensity that sent a shiver down his spine. Her scent wafted toward him, exotic, like blooming night flowers on a forbidden world, mingling with the dungeon's chill. He stepped closer, his mind racing. Killing her could cripple the Empire's morale, but something in her gaze held him back, a spark that ignited forbidden thoughts. "I'm here to end this war," he replied, his voice steady but laced with the raw edge of a man who'd seen too much bloodshed. "If that means taking out their princess, well, orders are orders." She laughed softly, a sound like tinkling crystals, her body arching slightly against the restraints as if testing their limits. The movement drew his eyes involuntarily to the way her gown shimmered, accentuating every curve. "Orders, how quaint, humans and their rigid codes. But look at me, intruder. Do I seem like the monster your propaganda paints?" Her violet eyes darkened with a mix of challenge and desire. "You've fought your way through my guards, spilled their blood. Now, here I am, at your mercy. Finish me, or claim me." The words hung in the air, heavy with implication, her moan-like whisper making the phrase pulse with erotic undertones. Alex's pulse quickened. Claim her? The idea was absurd, intoxicating. He was a soldier, not a conqueror of hearts, yet in this moment, with the Empire's fate teetering, her proposition stirred something primal within him. He smirked, lowering the blade just enough to trace a featherlight path along her collarbone, not to harm but to tease the boundary between threat and temptation. "Why not both?" he countered, his voice dropping to a husky growl. The air between them crackled, charged like a plasma storm. With a swift motion, he deactivated the energy cuffs using a hacked device from his belt. They fizzled out, and Vexa rubbed her wrists, her gaze never leaving his. Freedom suited her. She rose gracefully, her body brushing against his in the confined space, sending a jolt through him. Bold words, human, but words alone won't save you or me from what's coming. She leaned in, her breath warm against his ear. I have the royal codes to the palace defenses. Together, we could storm the heart of Lunara and bring my tyrannical father to his knees. But first, prove you're worthy of claiming anything. Alex felt the weight of her words, the allure of alliance wrapped in seduction. This wasn't just a rescue, it was an ignition point for rebellion, laced with the promise of something deeper. As alarms began to blare in the distance, guards no doubt discovering his trail, he grabbed her hand, pulling her toward the exit. Then let's move. Show me what a space princess can do when she's unchained. They burst from the cell into the labyrinthine corridors, laser fire already echoing ahead. Vexa's knowledge of the hidden passages proved invaluable. She guided him through twisting tunnels lined with glowing crystals that pulsed like living veins. This way, she urged, her hand firm in his, her touch electric. As they ran, she glanced back at him with a wicked smile. You know, human, in lunaran lore, claiming a princess means more than just words. It's a bond forged in fire and desire. Alex chuckled despite the danger, dodging a patrol drone that whirred past. Sounds like my kind of lore. But deep down, he wondered if he was ready for the flames she promised. The escape intensified as they neared the surface. Guards swarmed, their armored forms clanking like mechanical beasts. Alex fired his pulse rifle, blasts illuminating the shadows, while Vexa summoned a concealed energy whip from her gown's hidden compartment, an elegant weapon that cracked with lethal precision. Together, they fought in sync, his brute force complementing her agile strikes. One guard lunged at her. Alex intercepted, slamming his blade into its armor with a satisfying crunch. Not on my watch, he growled. Vexa rewarded him with a lingering glance. Her cheeks flushed from the exertion or perhaps something more. You're full of surprises, Captain Alex. Perhaps humans aren't the barbarians we thought. As they breached the outer gates, the lunaran night sky unfolded above them, stars twinkling like diamonds scattered across velvet. The palace loomed in the distance, a towering spire of crystalline architecture that pierced the heavens. But pursuit was close. Hovercraft engines roared behind them. Alex pulled Vexa into a concealed alcove, their bodies pressed together in the shadows. Her heart raced against his chest, her white hair tickling his neck. We need a plan, he whispered, trying to ignore the heat building between them. She tilted her head, those violet eyes gleaming. The royal code will disable the shields, but to get inside, we'll need to trust each other completely. Her fingers traced his arm, a subtle invitation. Are you ready to claim what you've started? The question lingered as sirens wailed, drawing them back into the fray. Little did Alex know, this alliance was about to unravel secrets that could shatter empires and ignite passions that burned brighter than any star. Their dash across the lunar terrain was a blur of adrenaline and stolen glances. Vexa's gown fluttered like wings in the low gravity, her lithe form leaping over craters with effortless grace. Alex, accustomed to Earth's pull, matched her stride, his muscles straining but his resolve unyielding. Tell me about this code, he panted as they ducked behind a rocky outcrop, evading a searchlight beam. It's embedded in my neural link, she explained, tapping her temple where a faint glow emanated. A failsafe for heirs, but activating it requires intimacy, a shared pulse as we call it. Her words carried a double meaning, her gaze flicking to his lips. Alex raised an eyebrow, a grin tugging at his mouth despite the peril. Intimacy, huh, your empire's got some interesting security measures. She laughed, a melodic sound that cut through the tension. Lunara values bonds over brute force, unlike you humans, who charge in with guns blazing. A squad of guards crested the ridge, their weapons charging with ominous whines. Alex and Vexa sprang into action. He provided covering fire, precise shots taking down 2 assailants, while she lashed out with her whip, ensnaring another's leg and yanking it off balance. The battle was fierce. each clash highlighting their complementary strengths, his tactical precision, her fluid elegance. As the last guard fell, Vexa pressed against him, breathing heavily. We're almost there, but the palace gates are guarded by elite sentinels. Then we improvise, Alex said, his hand lingering on her waist a moment too long. The touch sparked something electric, a preview of the shared pulse she mentioned. They pressed on, the palace growing larger, its spires reflecting the dual moon's light. Vexa's stories flowed as they moved, tales of her oppressive father, the emperor who viewed humans as inferior pests to be exterminated. He chained me for refusing an arranged union with a rival lord, she confessed. But you're different, raw, unpredictable. Alex felt a surge of protectiveness, mingled with desire. This princess wasn't just a key to victory, she was a flame drawing him in. As they approached the outer walls, a massive sentinel drone activated, its red eyes scanning. Intruders detected. It boomed. Vexa grabbed Alex's arm. Now's the time. Share the pulse with me, let our minds link briefly. It'll grant you the code. In the shadow of impending doom, Alex nodded, pulling her close. Their foreheads touched, and a wave of sensations flooded him, her memories, her fears, her hidden longings for freedom. It was intimate, vulnerable, and utterly captivating. The drone fired, but with the code unlocked, Vexa hacked its system's midlink. It turned on its own allies, buying them time to breach the wall. Inside the palace grounds, opulent gardens stretched before them, alien flora blooming under artificial stars, but danger lurked in every shadow. Alex and Vexa moved stealthily, their bond deepening with each step. "You feel it too, don't you?" she whispered. This connection, he couldn't deny it. Yeah, like we're meant to crash into each other. Their journey through the palace was a tapestry of close calls and whispered confidences. Guards patrolled marble halls adorned with holographic tapestries depicting lunaran conquests. Vexa led the way, her knowledge of secret doors proving crucial. In one narrow passage, they paused to catch their breath, bodies inches apart. Her scent enveloped him again, intoxicating. "Tell me about Earth," she said softly, her fingers brushing his. "Is it as wild as they say?" "Wilder," Alex replied, his voice low. "Oceans that roar, skies that storm, and people who fight for what they love." Her eyes softened. "I envy that freedom." A noise echoed, footsteps approaching. They flattened against the wall, hearts sinking in the tension. As the guard passed, Alex struck silently, disarming him with a chokehold. Vexa watched, admiration in her gaze. Deeper into the palace, they encountered a locked vault guarding the throne access. Using the royal code, Vexa interfaced with it, but it required a biometric scan. Hers. "Father's paranoia," she muttered. As she placed her hand on the panel, an alarm tripped, reinforcements flooded in. The fight erupted in earnest, laser swords ignited, blades clashing in a symphony of sparks. Alex wielded a stolen saber, his movements a blend of human grit and improvised flair. He parried a thrust, countering with a slash that felled an attacker. Vexa danced through the melee, her whip coiling around weapons and yanking them away. One burly guard charged Alex, pinning him momentarily. Vexa's whip saved him, pulling the foe back. "Together," she cried. They synchronized, back to back, repelling the assault. Blood, both human red and lunaran blue, stained the floor. Finally, the vault opened, revealing the elevator to the throne room. Panting, Alex turned to her. That was intense. Vexa's chest heaved, her gown disheveled but her allure undimmed. And it's only the beginning. As the elevator ascended, the weight of their impending confrontation loomed, but in that confined space, their eyes met, and the air thickened with unspoken promises. Alex reached out, tucking a strand of white hair behind her pointed ear. "Whatever happens up there, I'm glad I unchained you." She leaned in, her lips brushing his cheek. "And I'm glad you chose to claim me, in your way." The doors opened to the throne room's grandeur, setting the stage for the storm to come. As the elevator doors slid open with a whisper of pressurized air, revealing the opulent throne room in all its majestic splendor, Alex and Vexa stepped into a world that pulsed with both danger and forbidden allure. Towering columns of translucent crystal rose like ancient sentinels, refracting the light from hovering orbs that cast a kaleidoscope of colors across the vast chamber. The air was thicker here, scented with the faint, intoxicating aroma of lunaran incense, spicy and floral, designed to heighten senses and cloud judgments. At the far end, upon a dais elevated by steps of polished obsidian, sat the emperor's throne, empty now but radiating an aura of unyielding power. Guards flanked the perimeter, their armored silhouettes rigid and alert, but the room's silence was deceptive, a calm before the inevitable clash. Vexa's hand tightened in Alex's, her fingers interlacing with his in a grip that was both urgent and intimate. Her white hair shimmered under the lights, framing her face like a halo of starlight, and her violet eyes darted across the space, assessing threats with the precision of a born strategist. The gown she wore, now slightly torn from their earlier skirmishes, clung to her curves more provocatively than before, the fabric shifting with each breath she took, revealing glimpses of smooth, porcelain skin that seemed to glow from within. Alex could feel the heat of her body pressed close to his side, a reminder of the shared pulse they'd exchanged moments ago, a connection that lingered like an electric current, making every touch feel charged with unspoken promises. They moved forward cautiously, their footsteps muffled by the plush carpets woven with threads of luminescent silk. Alex's mind raced, piecing together the layout from the neural glimpses he'd caught during their link, hidden alcoves for ambushes, pressure-sensitive floors that could trigger alarms, and the Emperor's personal force field shimmering faintly around the throne. But beneath the tactical calculations simmered something deeper, more primal, the way Vexa's presence stirred him, her exotic beauty and defiant spirit weaving a spell that made the mission feel personal, almost possessive. "Stay close," she murmured, her voice a sultry caress against his ear, sending a shiver down his spine. Father's traps are as cunning as his heart is cold. One wrong step, and we're done. Her breath was warm, her lips so near that he could almost taste the sweetness of her words. In that instant, with danger closing in, Alex felt an overwhelming urge to pull her even closer, to explore the boundaries they'd only hinted at in the elevator. He nodded, his free hand hovering near his pulse rifle, but his eyes kept drifting to her, the elegant point of her elfin ears. The way her chest rose and fell with anticipation, accentuating the low cut of her gown. "I've got your back," he replied, his tone low and reassuring, though laced with a huskiness he couldn't quite suppress. "And after this, we'll have time to explore that claim you mentioned." The words slipped out bolder than intended, fueled by the adrenaline and the intoxicating pull between them. Vexa's lips curved into a mischievous smile, her violet gaze flickering with a mix of amusement and desire. "Careful, human, tease like that, and I might hold you to it sooner than you think." She leaned in fractionally, her body brushing against his arm, the contact deliberate and electrifying. It was a game now, this dance of words amid the peril, heightening the suspense as they crept deeper into the room. Suddenly, a soft chime echoed, a sensor detecting their presence. The guards snapped to attention, their visors glowing red as they raised weapons. Intruders in the throne sanctum. One barked, his voice amplified through a modulator. Laser sights danced across the floor like predatory fireflies, zeroing in on Alex and Vexa. Alex reacted instinctively, shoving Vexa behind a crystal pillar just as the first bolts sizzled through the air. The impact shattered a nearby orb, showering sparks that illuminated her face in fleeting bursts. She pressed against him in the narrow space, their bodies molded together out of necessity, her curves fitting against his frame in a way that made his pulse thunder. "Now," she whispered urgently, her hand sliding up his chest to steady herself, fingers lingering a beat too long on the hard planes of muscle beneath his suit. "Use the code, I can feel it in you from our link, disrupt their comms." He closed his eyes briefly, drawing on the neural imprint she'd shared, his mind flooding with lunaran tech schematics. With a mental command through his implant, he jammed their signals, turning the guards' coordinated assault into chaos. Shouts of confusion filled the room as their HUDs flickered. Alex peeked out, firing precise shots that dropped two guards in quick succession, their bodies crumpling with metallic thuds. Vexa wasn't idle. She uncoiled her energy whip, the weapon humming to life with a seductive glow that matched her eyes. She stepped out gracefully, lashing at a third guard, the whip wrapping around his arm and yanking him off balance. As he stumbled, she closed in, her movements fluid and hypnotic, like a dancer in a deadly ballet. Alex watched, mesmerized, as she disarmed him with a twist, her gown swirling to reveal the long, toned lines of her legs. There was something erotic in her prowess, the way power and vulnerability intertwined, making her seem both conqueror and temptation. But the fight was far from over. More reinforcements poured in from side doors, their boots pounding like a heartbeat echoing the tension. Alex grabbed Vexa's wrist, pulling her toward the dais. "We need higher ground," he urged, their hands clasped as they dashed up the steps. A bolt grazed his shoulder, searing pain that he ignored. Fueled by the adrenaline and the fierce protectiveness surging through him, they reached the throne, Vexa activating a concealed panel with a palm scan. A shield bubble enveloped them temporarily, buying precious seconds. Inside the protective dome, the world outside blurred slightly, the sounds of battle muffled. She turned to him, her breathing ragged, cheeks flushed with exertion. "That was close," she said, her voice breathy, eyes locking onto his, with an intensity that made the air feel thicker. Alex reached out, his fingers tracing the line of her jaw, feeling the soft warmth of her skin. "Too close," he agreed, his thumb brushing her lower lip, parting it slightly. The gesture was intimate, charged with the erotic undercurrent that had been building since their first encounter. Her small, pointed ears twitched subtly, a lunaran tell of arousal, and she leaned into his touch, her body swaying closer. "But we're in this together now. No turning back." Her hand covered his, guiding it down to her neck, where her pulse raced beneath his palm. "No," she whispered, her violet eyes darkening with desire. "And in lunaran custom, alliances like this, they demand a seal." She rose on her toes, her lips hovering inches from his, the heat between them palpable. The shield hummed around them, a cocoon amplifying every sensation, the scent of her hair, the softness of her curves pressing against him. Outside, the guards hammered at the barrier, their frustration mounting as cracks began to form, but in that suspended moment, time stretched. Alex's other hand slid to her waist, pulling her flush against him, feeling the rapid rise and fall of her breath sync with his own. "Then let's seal it," he murmured, his voice a low rumble that vibrated through her. Their lips met in a kiss that ignited like a fusion reactor, fierce, exploratory, laced with the desperation of warriors on the edge. Vexa's mouth was soft yet demanding, tasting of exotic spices and unspoken yearnings. She moaned softly into the kiss, her fingers tangling in his hair, pulling him deeper. The erotic charge was undeniable, her body arched against his, every curve molding to his strength, awakening sensations that blurred the line between battle and passion. As the kiss deepened, her hands roamed, tracing the contours of his back, slipping under the edge of his suit to feel the warmth of his skin. Alex responded in kind, his touch bold yet reverent, exploring the elegant sweep of her spine, the dip of her lower back where her gown dipped tantalizingly low. The world narrowed to this, their shared heat. The way her pointed ears brushed his cheek, sending tingles through him, it was suspenseful ecstasy, knowing the shield could fail at any second, adding a thrilling edge to their intimacy. A crack echoed, the barrier weakening. Vexa pulled back slightly, her lips swollen, eyes gleaming with a mix of lust and resolve. "Hold that thought," she breathed, her voice husky. "We finish this fight first, then we finish each other." Alex grinned, adrenaline surging anew as he readied his weapon. "Deal." With a final, lingering touch, his hand squeezing her hip possessively, they prepared to burst forth. The guards outside roared, unaware of the unbreakable bond forming within. As the shield shattered in a cascade of energy shards, Alex and Vexa exploded into action, their synergy heightened by the kiss's fire. He charged a cluster of guards, his rifle barking precise volleys, while she flanked them with her whip, her movements a seductive whirlwind of lethality. One guard swung a vibro blade at her. Alex intercepted, tackling him to the ground in a grapple that ended with a decisive strike. Vexa rewarded him with a glance that promised more, her body glistening with a light sheen of sweat that made her skin shimmer invitingly. The battle raged on, each dodge and strike building the suspense. Their stolen touches amid the chaos, a brush of hands, a protective shove fueling the erotic tension. Vexa's gown tore further at the hem, exposing more of her lithe legs, and Alex couldn't help but admire her resilience, her beauty amplified by the fight. Deeper into the fray, they pushed toward the Emperor's inner sanctum, a hidden door behind the throne. Guards fell one by one, but reinforcements trickled in, keeping the pressure unrelenting. In a brief lull, as they ducked behind the throne itself, Vexa's hand found his thigh, squeezing with intent. "You're incredible," she whispered, her touch lingering, tracing upward just enough to tease. "Humans, so enduring." Alex's breath hitched, his body responding despite the danger. "And you're intoxicating," he replied, capturing her hand and pressing it to his chest, letting her feel his racing heart. The moment was electric, suspense hanging like a charged storm cloud, promising release once victory was theirs. But the Emperor's voice boomed suddenly over hidden speakers, a cold, mechanical tone that shattered the intimacy. "Daughter, you've brought a pest into my domain. Surrender, and I'll make his end quick." Vexa's eyes flashed with defiance, her body tensing against Alex's. "Never," she hissed, then turned to him. "Ready to end this?" "Always," he said, stealing one more quick kiss, a brush of lips that reignited the fire before they surged forward. The path to the sanctum was a gauntlet of automated turrets and elite warriors, each encounter testing their bond. Vexa's whip cracked, disarming a turret mid-fire, while Alex hacked another using the royal code, his mind still buzzing from their connection. Their movements were in perfect harmony, her grace complementing his power, every near miss drawing them closer physically and emotionally. In one intense clash, a guard pinned Vexa momentarily, his arm around her throat. Alex roared, diving in with raw fury, prying him off and dispatching him with a brutal efficiency. As she gasped for air, he held her, his hands roaming her back in a soothing yet sensual glide. "I've got you," he murmured, his lips grazing her ear. She melted into him for a heartbeat, her curves pressing invitingly. "And I want you," she replied, the words laced with erotic promise, fueling him through the next wave. The suspense built to a fever pitch as they neared the door, the air thick with anticipation, not just for the confrontation ahead, but for the private victory that awaited beyond. Sweat-slicked and battle-worn, their bodies ached with a mix of fatigue and desire. Every glance exchanged a silent vow. Finally, with the last guard downed in a heap, they stood before the sanctum entrance. Vexa's fingers danced over the panel, inputting the final override. As the door hissed open, revealing shadows within, she turned to Alex, her violet eyes burning. "Whatever happens in there, know that you've already claimed my heart." He pulled her in for a deep, lingering kiss, hands exploring the soft swell of her hips, the erotic tension peaking in that stolen moment. Then, with hearts pounding, they stepped into the unknown, ready to face the storm together. As the sanctum door sealed shut behind them with a resonant thud, enclosing Alex and Vexa in a chamber that felt like the heart of a dying star, the air grew oppressively thick, laced with the hum of concealed machinery and the faint, acrid scent of ozone from overworked power conduits. Shadows danced along the walls, cast by holographic displays flickering with streams of lunaran script, battle reports, planetary conquests, and schematics of weapons that could obliterate worlds. At the center, elevated on a platform ringed by a moat of swirling energy plasma, stood Emperor Kale, Vexa's father, his form a towering silhouette against the backdrop of a massive viewscreen depicting the Empire's vast armada mobilizing in orbit. He turned slowly, his robes of dark, flowing silk embroidered with glowing runes that pulsed like veins of liquid fire. His face a mask of chiseled authority etched with lines of ruthless ambition. His eyes, a deeper shade of violet than Vexa's, narrowed with a mix of fury and intrigue as they settled on the intruders. "Daughter," he intoned, his voice booming through hidden amplifiers, echoing like thunder rolling across a stormy plain. "You've returned, and with a human pet in tow. How? Quaint, I assume this is the source of the chaos ripping through my palace." He gestured dismissively, and the plasma mote flared brighter, casting eerie blue highlights on Vexa's white hair and Alex's determined features. The Emperor's presence was overwhelming, a gravitational pull that demanded submission. Yet Alex felt no fear, only a surging resolve, amplified by the warmth of Vexa's hand still clasped in his, her touch a silent anchor in the brewing tempest. Vexa stepped forward, her chin lifted defiantly, the remnants of their kiss still lingering on her lips like a secret flame. "Father, your reign ends tonight," she declared, her tone steady but laced with the raw emotion of years suppressed under his tyranny. "You've chained our people to endless war, sacrificed alliances for power. And now, with this human by my side, I've seen what true strength looks like, not conquest, but connection." Her words hung in the air, dramatic and charged, revealing a vulnerability that made the moment pulse with intimacy amid the grandeur. Alex squeezed her hand, his heart thundering as he scanned the room for threats, concealed turrets in the ceiling, force fields shimmering faintly along the walls, and what appeared to be a control dais beside the Emperor. "She's right," he added, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "Earth won't bow to your empire, and neither will she. Surrender now, and maybe we can end this without more blood." But even as he spoke, a thrill coursed through him, the kind that came from standing on the precipice of history, where one wrong move could shatter everything. Kale laughed, a deep, resonant sound that vibrated the floor beneath their feet, sending ripples through the plasma moat. "Surrender? To a primitive ape and my wayward child? Oh, Vexa, you've always been too sentimental, too enamored with those fairy tales of interstellar harmony." He paced slowly along his platform, his robes whispering against the polished surface, building the suspense with each deliberate step. "But curiosity compels me. How did this alliance form? Did he whisper sweet nothings in your ear while unchaining you from your rightful place?" His gaze flicked to Alex, assessing him not as a threat, but as an anomaly, a puzzle that ignited a spark of genuine intrigue in his otherwise cold demeanor. The Emperor's words struck a nerve, and Vex's small, pointed ears flushed with a subtle glow, a lunaran sign of heightened emotion that Alex had come to recognize during their frantic escape. She released Alex's hand, stepping closer to the moat, her gown swaying with a grace that belied the storm raging within her. "It's more than you could understand, Father. Humans don't just conquer, they inspire. Alex didn't free me out of duty, he chose me, and in that choice, we've become something unbreakable." Her voice rose, dramatic and fervent, echoing the climax of their journey, where personal desires intertwined with galactic fates. Alex felt a surge of protectiveness, mingled with the thrilling awareness that this confrontation was the fulcrum upon which everything balanced. He moved beside her, his pulse rifle at the ready, eyes locked on Kale. "Enough talk. Deactivate your defenses, or we'll do it for you." But beneath his bravado, curiosity gnawed at him. What secrets did this Emperor hold that could explain Vex's imprisonment, or the Empire's relentless aggression toward Earth? Kale's smile widened, a predatory gleam in his eyes as he activated a holographic interface with a wave of his hand. "Very well. If it's a show you want, let's make it thrilling." Suddenly, the room transformed, the plasma moat expanded, forming barriers that divided the chamber into a labyrinth of energy walls. Crackling with lethal voltage, hidden panels slid open, releasing a swarm of sentinel drones, their sleek, obsidian forms humming with menace as they hovered into position, red sensors scanning for targets. The viewscreen behind Kale flickered to life with live feeds from the Armada, ships powering up weapons that could glass planets in minutes. Alex's instincts kicked in, pulling Vexa behind a newly formed energy partition just as the first drone fired a plasma bolt that scorched the floor where they'd stood. "Stay low," he shouted, his voice laced with urgency, as he returned fire, his shots precise and calculated, shattering one drone in a burst of sparks. The thrill of the fight ignited every nerve, the dramatic stakes elevating each moment. This wasn't just survival. It was a symphony of chaos where their bond would be tested to its limits. Vexa, undeterred, summoned her energy whip, the weapon extending with a snap that echoed like a whip crack in a thunderstorm. "We need to reach the control dais," she called over the din, lashing out at a drone that swooped too close, coiling the whip around its chassis and yanking it into the plasma wall, where it exploded in a shower of debris. Her movements were a blend of elegance and ferocity, her white hair whipping around her face like a banner of rebellion, heightening the dramatic visuals of their stand against tyranny. As they navigated the shifting maze, dodging bolts that sizzled the air and left ozone trails, a surprising revelation unfolded. Kale's voice boomed again, this time with a hint of mockery. "Did she tell you, human? the real reason I chained her. He manipulated the holograms, projecting images into the air, ancient lunaran artifacts, star maps dotted with red markers, and a faded hologram of a human-like figure from eons past. Our empire wasn't built on conquest alone. It was born from a betrayal. Humans, your ancestors, abandoned us during the Great Void War, leaving Lunara to fend against the abyss. Vexa's sympathy for your kind is a weakness I tried to cure. Alex faltered for a split second, his mind reeling from the curious twist. What? He demanded, firing at another drone while shielding Vexa from a flanking attack. The revelation was surprising. Shattering preconceptions, Earth's history books spoke of no such war, only vague legends of lost colonies. Was this propaganda, or a hidden truth that could rewrite alliances? Vexa whipped around, her violet eyes wide with a mix of anger and sorrow. Lies, father. Those records are forged. You twisted history to justify your hatred. She charged forward, her whip cleaving through two drones in a single arc, the explosions lighting her features in dramatic flares. But the Emperor's words planted seeds of doubt, making the climax even more thrilling as curiosity battled with trust. The battle intensified, the room a whirlwind of motion and light. Alex leaped over a plasma barrier, tackling a drone midair and smashing it against the floor with brute force, his human strength surprising even himself in Lunara's lower gravity. Whatever happened back then, he growled, helping Vexa to her feet after she dodged a near miss, their hands brushing in a fleeting touch that grounded him. It doesn't change now. We're ending this cycle. Kale descended from his platform, activating a personal energy shield that enveloped him like a second skin, glowing with ominous red hues. Then come, prove your worth, he challenged, summoning a staff that extended into a dual-bladed weapon, crackling with power. The Emperor joined the fray personally, his strikes precise and devastating, forcing Alex and Vexa into a defensive dance that tested every ounce of their synergy. In a thrilling exchange, Alex parried a blow meant for Vexa, his rifle butt clashing against the staff in a shower of sparks. Get to the dais, he urged her, holding Kale at bay. Vexa nodded, slipping past with agile grace, but not before planting a quick, fierce kiss on his cheek, a dramatic gesture of faith amid the chaos. As she reached the controls, inputting overrides with frantic precision, another surprise unfolded. The holograms shifted, revealing hidden files, evidence of Kale's secret pacts with shadowy void entities, beings from beyond the stars that fed on war's chaos. Father, you've allied with the abyss itself. Vexa gasped, her voice trembling with betrayal, the revelation sending shockwaves through the room. Kale snarled, pressing his attack on Alex. Sacrifices for power, daughter, something you'd never understand. He swung wildly, but Alex countered with a human improvisation, grabbing a fallen drone's core and hurling it like a grenade, the explosion disrupting Kale's shield momentarily. Seizing the opening, Vexa completed the hack, the Armada feeds glitching as commands broadcast empire-wide. Stand down, reveal the truth. Alarms wailed, the room shaking as systems overloaded. Drones faltered, powering down in waves, leaving Kale exposed. In the climactic surge, Alex charged, tackling the Emperor to the ground in a grapple of raw power versus regal might. Fists flew, energy crackling, the thrilling struggle a microcosm of human grit against alien arrogance. Vexa joined, her whip binding Kale's staff, disarming him with a twist. Pinned, Kale looked up, his violet eyes mirroring Vexa's but twisted with defeat. You, a human, how? He whispered, curiosity overtaking rage in his final moments. Alex stood, helping Vexa restrain him, the surprising victory washing over them like a tidal wave. Because love isn't a weakness, Alex replied, pulling Vexa close as reinforcements, now loyal to her, burst in. The Empire teetered on collapse, truths unraveling, but in that dramatic peak, their bond shone brightest, a beacon amid the ruins. Yet, as celebrations loomed, a curious shadow lingered, a final hologram flickering to life, hinting at greater threats beyond Lunara's borders. Void stirring once more, the thrill of triumph mingled with surprise, leaving them breathless, united, and ready for whatever cosmic storms awaited. as the last echoes of the alarms faded into a distant whine, leaving the sanctum bathed in the flickering glow of overloaded holograms. Alex and Vexa stood amidst the wreckage, their breaths coming in ragged unison, her hand still gripping his arm with a fierce tenderness that spoke volumes of their shared victory. Emperor Kale lay bound at their feet, his once imposing form reduced to a disheveled heap, muttering curses in ancient lunaran dialects that even the neural implant struggled to translate into anything coherent. Loyal reinforcements, guards who had switched sides at Vexa's broadcasted command, filed in, their weapons lowered in awe, eyes darting between the fallen tyrant and the unlikely duo who had toppled him. The air buzzed with electric tension, the drama of revolution hanging thick as the scent of scorched circuits, but beneath it all simmered an awkward undercurrent, the kind that arises when empires crumble and personal reckonings rush in like an uninvited guest. Vexa turned to the nearest guard, a young officer with wide eyes and trembling antennae, lunaran traits that twitched nervously under stress. "Secure my father in the lower vaults," she ordered, her voice regaining the royal timbre that came so naturally, though it cracked just slightly with the weight of what she'd done. "And broadcast the truth across all channels. The Void Pact's end now. Lunara joins the Human Federation as equals." The officer saluted sharply, barking orders to his squad, but not before stealing a curious glance at Alex, as if trying to reconcile the stories of brutish humans with the sweat-streaked warrior who now stood protectively at the princess's side. Alex released a long breath, wiping a streak of blue lunaran blood from his cheek, only to realize it had smeared across Vexa's pristine gown like some abstract painting gone wrong. Sorry about that," he muttered, his fingers hovering awkwardly over the stain, brushing at it tentatively. The touch, meant to be helpful, lingered a beat too long on the curve of her hip, sending an unintended spark through both of them. Her violet eyes widened, a flush creeping up her porcelain neck to the tips of her pointed ears, which glowed faintly, a lunaran blush that was equal parts endearing and embarrassing in front of her soldiers. She swatted his hand away playfully, though her lips twitched with suppressed laughter. "Captain Thorne, if you wanted an excuse to touch me again, there are less bloody ways." The words hung there, laced with their earlier erotic promise, but the timing couldn't have been worse or funnier, as the entire squad froze, visors tilting in unison like a row of confused pigeons. One guard coughed awkwardly into his modulator, producing a static squawk that echoed comically through the chamber. Alex's face heated, a rare crack in his battle-hardened facade. "Right, yeah, timing's not my strong suit." He stepped back, nearly tripping over Kale's discarded staff, which clattered against the platform with a metallic clang that drew snickers from the back ranks. The drama heightened instantly. Here they were, saviors of an empire, fumbling like teenagers caught in a supply closet. Vexa bit her lip to stifle a giggle, but it escaped as a melodic trill, her white hair falling forward to partially hide her amusement. "Oh, humans," she whispered, loud enough for the nearest guards to hear, so adorably clumsy after saving the galaxy. The officer cleared his throat again, this time with purpose. "Highness, the council awaits in the Grand Hall. They, demand an audience, immediately." His gaze flicked to Alex, then away, as if the human's presence was a live plasma grenade. Vexa nodded, composing herself with regal poise, but as she moved to lead the way, Alex caught her wrist gently, pulling her aside into a shadowed alcove just beyond the sanctum door. The guards pretended not to notice, though their antennae twitched like radar dishes picking up scandal. "Before we face the circus," he said, his voice low and earnest, eyes searching hers with an intensity that reignited the drama between them. "Are you okay? Really?" His thumb traced a soothing circle on her skin, but the alcove's tight space pressed them closer than intended, her curves brushing against him in a way that made his pulse stutter. Awkwardness bloomed anew, his tactical suit, torn and sticky with sweat, chafed against her silken gown, and he could smell the mix of her floral scent and battlefield grime, an oddly intoxicating cocktail. Vexa's expression softened, the weight of betrayal and triumph etching lines of vulnerability across her features. "I just imprisoned my father, Alex, the man who raised me, broke me. Her voice caught, and she leaned into him, forehead resting against his chest, her pointed ears brushing his jaw in a ticklish graze that nearly made him chuckle at the worst moment. "It's a lot, but you make it bearable." She tilted her head up, their lips inches apart, the air thickening with unspoken desire, until a guard's boot scuffed loudly outside the alcove. "Highness, the council is assembling." The officer's voice was strained, clearly mortified at interrupting what was obviously a tender moment. Vexa pulled back with a dramatic sigh, straightening her gown, now sporting an even more prominent bloodstain that looked suspiciously like a heart. "Duty calls," she murmured to Alex, her eyes twinkling with humor despite the gravity. "But don't think this gets you out of that ceiling we discussed." She winked, then strode out, leaving him to follow with a grin that masked his own swirling emotions. The grand hall was a spectacle of heightened drama. Crystal chandeliers hovered like frozen fireworks, casting rainbows across rows of counselors in ornate robes, their faces a mosaic of shock, fear, and opportunistic glee. Whispers rippled like wind through tall grasses as Vexa entered, Alex at her flank like a human shadow, tall, rugged, and utterly out of place among the ethereal lunaran elite. "All hail Princess Vexa, true heir," the officer announced, but the applause was tepid, laced with murmurs of human, "Here, and what sorcery is this?" Vexa ascended the central dais, her posture impeccable, though Alex caught the slight tremble in her hand as she gripped the podium. "Counselors," she began, her voice ringing clear and commanding, "tonight, we cast off the chains of deceit. My father's void alliances threatened us all, with Captain Alex Thorne's aid." She gestured to him, and every eye swiveled, widening at the sight of the blood-smeared human who offered a casual salute. A counselor dropped his datapad with a clatter, and someone in the back tittered. The drama escalated as an older counselor, Lady Naira, with hair just as white but tied in a severe bun, rose indignantly. "A human? In our hall? This is blasphemy. What proof have you of these pacts?" Her tone dripped skepticism, but her eyes lingered on Alex a tad too long, curiosity mingling with disdain. Vexa activated the holographic projector, void entity images blooming in horrifying detail, tentacled shadows devouring stars. Gasps echoed, but before she could continue, awkwardness struck like lightning. Alex's stomach growled thunderously, amplified by the hall's acoustics. Silencing the room, he winced, mouthing sorry as Vexa shot him an amused glance. "As you were saying," a counselor quipped, breaking the tension with nervous laughter that spread like wildfire. Undeterred, Vexa pressed on, detailing the evidence with passionate fervor, her words weaving drama into every revelation. But the humor crept in relentlessly when she mentioned their shared pulse link. A young counselor blurted, "Shared what now?" Prompting blushes and chuckles. Alex, standing sentinel, shifted uncomfortably as a holographic replay of their throne room kiss accidentally looped on screen, caught by a security drone. The hall erupted in scandalized whispers and outright guffaws. "Well, that's one way to seal an alliance," someone jested. Vexa's ears glowed crimson, but she laughed, a genuine, freeing sound that humanized her before her people. "Yes, humans are. Direct," she admitted, shooting Alex a look that was pure fire. He shrugged, playing along with a wink. "What can I say? We don't do subtle." The council, disarmed by the blend of drama and levity, voted swiftly, Vexa as regent, peace with Earth. Cheers rose, but awkwardness peaked when Lady Naira approached Alex post-vote, her stern facade cracking. "Captain, I owe you thanks, though I must ask, do all humans kiss like that, or is it a battle tactic?" Her deadpan delivery sent the hall into hysterics, even Vexa doubling over. As the celebration began, floating trays of luminescent wine appearing, Alex pulled Vexa aside again, this time into a balcony overlooking the lunar capital's twinkling spires. The drama softened into intimate tension, her body leaning into his. "That was chaos," he said, chuckling. "Your council thinks I'm some galactic Casanova." She traced his jaw, eyes sparkling. "And are you?" The question hung, humorous yet charged, as a wayward wine tray bumped into them, spilling droplets on her gown, now a masterpiece of stains. "Only for you," he replied, pulling her close despite the mess, their laughter mingling with the night's first stars. But beneath the humor, drama loomed, A private comm buzzed in Alex's ear, Earth Command. Urgent, the void entities were mobilizing, drawn by the Emperor's fall. Victory was sweet, but awkward new challenges awaited, their bond the only certainty in the swirling cosmos. As the private comm from Earth Command continued its insistent buzz in Alex's ear, a stark reminder of the void entities stirring beyond Lunara's borders, he silenced it with a subtle tap on his implant, unwilling to let the galaxy's chaos intrude on the stolen moment under the stars. Vexa, oblivious to the alert, nestled closer against him on the balcony, her laughter fading into a soft, contented sigh as the luminescent wine droplets trickled down her stained gown, catching the moonlight like scattered jewels. The capital sprawled below them, a tapestry of glowing spires and hovering transports, but up here, the world felt distant, intimate, theirs alone. Her body pressed warmly against his, the curves he'd come to admire during their frantic escapes now a gentle invitation, her porcelain skin flushed from the day's triumphs and the wine's subtle warmth. "You know," she murmured, her fingers trailing from his jaw down to the collar of his tactical suit, undoing a clasp with deliberate slowness. "In lunaran tradition, a victory like this deserves a proper celebration." Her violet eyes held his, sparkling with a mix of playfulness and deeper longing, her pointed ears twitching ever so slightly as the night breeze whispered around them. The awkward humor from the hall lingered in her smile, but it evolved into something more profound, a shared vulnerability that made the air between them hum with anticipation. Alex's heart raced, not from battle this time, but from the electric pull of her nearness. He cupped her face gently, his thumb brushing her full lips, feeling the softness that had haunted his thoughts since their first heated kiss in the throne room. "Then let's celebrate," he replied, his voice a low rumble, pulling her fully into his arms. Their lips met again, this time unhurried, a slow exploration that deepened with each passing second. Her taste, a blend of sweet wine and exotic spice, igniting a fire that spread through him like a gentle wave. She responded eagerly, her hands slipping beneath his suit to trace the hard lines of his chest, her touch sending shivers across his skin as she pressed closer, their bodies aligning in a rhythm born of trust and desire. They moved as one toward the balcony's secluded alcove, where plush cushions awaited under a canopy of starry holograms, a private retreat for royals weary from courtly demands. Vexa's gown slipped from her shoulders with a whisper of fabric, revealing the graceful contours of her form, her white hair cascading like a veil as she guided him down beside her. The moment was tender yet charged, their caresses exploring with reverence, his fingers mapping the smooth expanse of her back, hers urging him nearer, their breaths mingling in soft gasps of pleasure. There was no rush, only the building intimacy of two souls connecting on every level, her lithe frame arching into his strength, creating a harmony that felt as vast as the cosmos itself. In the quiet glow of the holograms, they lost themselves in each other, the awkward stains and earlier laughs forgotten in the warmth of their embrace. Alex marveled at her responsiveness, the way her body moved with an otherworldly grace, drawing him into a dance of sensation that blurred the lines between human and lunaran. Soft murmurs escaped her lips, words of affection in her native tongue, translated through his implant as whispers of more and yours, heightening the closeness, making every touch feel like a promise etched in starlight. The experience was profound, a union that healed the scars of war with gentle passion, their peaks arriving in waves of shared ecstasy that left them breathless, entwined in a cocoon of contentment. As they lay together afterward, her head resting on his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart, Vexa traced lazy patterns on his skin, her violet eyes soft with satisfaction. "Humans," she teased lightly, echoing their earlier humor. "You certainly know how to make a princess feel alive." Alex chuckled, pulling her closer, the drama of the day giving way to this peaceful afterglow, even as the calm's silent vibration reminded him that their challenges were far from over. But for now, in this haven, their bond was unbreakable, a beacon against the gathering shadows. As the afterglow wrapped around them like a soft nebula, Vexa nestled deeper into Alex's embrace, her fingers continuing their lazy dance across his chest, tracing invisible constellations that mirrored the holographic stars twinkling above. The balcony's cushions cradled their entwined forms, the night air cool against their heated skin, carrying faint echoes of the Capitol's celebrations below, distant cheers, and the hum of hovering revelers marking the dawn of a new era. Alex held her close, his arm draped possessively over her waist, savoring the quiet rhythm of her breathing syncing with his own, a rare piece after the whirlwind of betrayal, battle, and passion. The silenced calm in his ear remained a distant nag, but he pushed it aside, unwilling to shatter this fragile sanctuary where their worlds had finally aligned. "You make me believe in futures beyond the stars," Vexa whispered, her voice a gentle melody laced with the warmth of their intimacy, her pointed ears brushing his shoulder as she shifted to look up at him. Her violet eyes reflected the hologram's glow, soft and unguarded, revealing depths he'd only begun to explore. She propped herself on one elbow, her white hair spilling over like a cascade of moonlight, and leaned in to place a tender kiss on his collarbone, her lips lingering with a promise of more dawns like this. "With you, Lunara and Earth could forge something eternal, not just peace, but unity." Alex smiled, his hand sliding up her back to tangle in her hair, pulling her in for another slow kiss, one that spoke of gratitude and growing affection. "And you make me see the galaxy isn't just a battlefield," he murmured against her lips, his free hand caressing the curve of her hip, memorizing the feel of her. The moment stretched, intimate and unhurried, their bodies still humming from the connection they'd shared. A blend of human fervor and lunaran grace that felt like destiny woven into the fabric of the universe. He could almost forget the Emperor's defeated glare, the Council's awkward stares, the void's looming shadow almost. But as their kiss deepened, a subtle vibration rippled through Vexa's form, so faint at first that Alex dismissed it as the balcony's holographic canopy glitching in the breeze. She pulled back slightly, her brow furrowing in confusion, her hand pressing to her temple where the neural link glowed faintly. Unbidden. "What?" she breathed, her voice trailing off as her violet eyes widened, not with desire this time, but with a flicker of alarm. The glow intensified, pulsing like a heartbeat out of sync, and Alex sat up, concern etching his features as he reached for her. "Vexa, what's wrong?" Before she could respond, the holographic stars above them warped, distorting into swirling patterns that mimicked the void entities from Kale's files. Tentacled shadows coiling in digital ether. Vexa's body tensed, her porcelain skin paling as if drained by an invisible force, and she clutched at his arm, nails digging in with sudden desperation. "Alex, something's inside me," the shared pulse. It triggered. Her words cut off in a gasp, her eyes glazing over for a split second, replaced by an inky blackness that swallowed the violet entirely, like eclipses devouring twin suns. Alex's heart slammed against his ribs, adrenaline surging as he grabbed her shoulders, shaking her gently. "Fight it. Whatever it is, you're stronger." But even as he spoke, the twist unraveled with brutal speed, a holographic projection burst from her neural implant. Unbidden, materializing Kale's smirking face in midair, his image glitchy but triumphant. "Did you think it was over, human?" The Emperor's recorded voice sneered, echoing from hidden speakers in the balcony. "You fools! The Void Pacts weren't alliances, they were infusions. I embedded a fragment in Vexa years ago, a sleeper seed to ensure loyalty. Your shared pulse activated it fully. She's mine now, or rather, theirs." Vexa's body convulsed, her graceful form twisting unnaturally as the blackness in her eyes deepened. Tendrils of shadow energy snaking from her fingertips like living smoke, coiling toward Alex with predatory intent. He leaped back, dodging a lash that singed the cushions, his mind reeling from the betrayal sting not from her, but from the cruel architecture of fate that had hidden this horror within her. "No, Vexa, this isn't you," he shouted, scrambling for his discarded pulse rifle nearby, but hesitating to aim it at her. His love clashing with survival instinct in a storm of confusion. The princess, or what remained of her, rose fluidly, her movements no longer elegant but mechanical, infused with an otherworldly fluidity that made her seem like a puppet on cosmic strings. "You, activated the bridge," she intoned, her voice layered with echoing distortions, as if multiple entities spoke through her. The holograms around them solidified into portals, ripping open views of the void, swirling abyssal realms where tentacled horrors writhed, drawn inexorably toward Lunara by the signal emanating from Vexa herself. Alarms blared across the capital below, lights flickering as the Empire's defenses scrambled against the incoming invasion. But here, on the balcony, the drama narrowed to a personal apocalypse. Alex's comm finally activated automatically, Earth's urgent voice crackling through. "Thorne, report. Sensors show void rifts opening, Lunara's the epicenter. Mission parameters: if compromised, neutralize the source." The order hit like a gut punch, the source being the woman he just shared his soul with, but he ignored it, focusing on Vexa as she advanced, shadow tendrils whipping the air. "I won't hurt you," he vowed, dodging another strike that shattered a holographic emitter in a spray of sparks. His mind raced, piecing together the Emperor's files. The infusions were neural parasites, feeding on bonds to grow stronger. Their intimacy hadn't sealed an alliance. It had unwittingly fueled the beast within her. In a surge of desperation, Alex lunged not to attack, but to close the distance, grabbing her wrists and forcing her to meet his gaze. "Remember us, the dungeon, the throne, this balcony. That's real, not this poison." For a heartbeat, the blackness receded, her violet eyes resurfacing with tears, her body trembling against the control. "Alex, it hurts." The void whispers, promises power. But the twist deepened as Kale's hologram laughed again. "Power? Oh, child, the real surprise is this. The void isn't alien. It's the remnant of your human ancestors' failed experiment, dark matter entities born from Earth's ancient warp drives, abandoned to fester. They crave reunion? Through her." The revelation exploded in Alex's mind like a supernova. Humans hadn't betrayed Lunara in the Great Void War. They'd created the void itself, a catastrophic side effect of early space travel that spiraled into horror. Vexa's infestation wasn't random. It was a targeted revenge, the entities using lunaran royalty as vessels to bridge back to their creators. The capital shook as the first rifts tore open in the sky, tentacled forms emerging like nightmares given flesh, descending on the spires. Guards below fired futilely, screams rising as shadows engulfed patrols. Vexa, torn between worlds, slumped against him, the shadow energy faltering as her will fought back. "Help me, sever it," she pleaded, guiding his hand to her temple where the neural link pulsed. But severing it risked her life, a gamble that heightened the surprise's cruelty. To save the galaxy, he might lose her forever. Alex's fingers hovered, his HFY spirit roaring defiance against the cosmic irony, humans as unwitting villains, now redeemers. With a growl, he activated his implant, reversing the shared pulse, flooding her with his own memories, emotions, humanity's unyielding resilience. The backlash was immense. Shadows recoiled, screeching through her voice as the entities were purged, rifts flickering unstable. Vex's body arched in agony, then went limp in his arms, the blackness expelled in a burst of dark vapor that dissipated into the night. Kale's hologram shattered, his final ploy undone, but as Alex cradled her, checking her pulse, faint but steady, the true power of the twist settled. The void wasn't defeated, merely repelled, and its human origins meant Earth held the key to eternal war or forbidden peace. Below, the invasion intensified, rifts widening as more entities poured through, drawn by the lingering signal. Alex scooped Vexa up, her unconscious form light in his arms, and dashed toward the palace's command center, comm blazing with updates. "Federation, this is Thorne Void's human-made. Send schematics, we're fixing our mess." The surprise lingered, a paradigm shift that reframed everything. HFY wasn't just triumph, it was accountability, love forged in the fires of ancestral sins. As he burst into the hall, counselors panicking amid holographic alerts, Vexa stirred weakly, her eyes fluttering open to violet purity. "You saved me," she whispered, clutching him. But the rifts boomed, a massive entity colossal, tentacled coiling toward the palace, its form a distorted echo of ancient human tech. Alex set her down gently, grabbing a command console to broadcast empire-wide. "Lunara, Earth unite, the void's our shadow. Together, we banish it." The battle reignited, guards rallying as human reinforcements warped in, Federation ships blinking into orbit, lasers lancing the invaders. Alex and Vexa coordinated from the center, their bond the linchpin, her royal codes syncing with his tactical feeds. A tendril smashed a spire nearby, debris raining, but they held, her hand in his amid the chaos. In the twist's wake, surprises layered, Vexa's infestation had left her with residual void senses, allowing her to predict attacks, turning curse into gift. "I see them, flank left," she cried, directing fire that vaporized a swarm. Alex marveled, his love deepening amid the thrill. Humans fuck yeah, but with lunaran heart, unstoppable. As the rifts began closing under combined assaults, the powerful revelation cemented: the galaxy's greatest enemy was humanity's echo, but its salvation lay in hybrid bonds like theirs. Vexa leaned into him, exhausted but alive. "Our story's just beginning," she said, as the last entity wailed into oblivion. Yet, in the quieting storm, one final whisper from the void echoed in her mind, a promise of return, hinting at deeper layers. Alex kissed her forehead, ready for whatever came. Their twist had surprised the stars themselves. As the final wail of the void entity faded into a haunting echo across the shattered spires of the capital, leaving the night sky streaked with fading rifts like tears in black velvet, Alex held Vexa steady against the command console, their hands still intertwined amid the flickering holographic displays that now showed green status reports, Lunara's defenses holding, Earth ships linking shields in perfect sync. The hall around them buzzed with renewed chaos, counselors scrambling to their feet from under overturned tables, guards barking orders with a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration, their antennae twitching like overexcited antennae on a faulty radio. Vexa's breath came in shallow waves, her violet eyes clearing fully as the residual void senses sharpened her focus, turning her from fragile survivor to battlefield oracle in the span of a heartbeat. "The last rift, it's stabilizing over the eastern quadrant," she announced, her voice steady despite the tremor in her limbs, pointing at a pulsing red blip on the screen. "If we don't collapse it now, it'll summon reinforcements." Alex nodded, his rugged features set in grim determination, but he couldn't resist brushing a stray lock of her white hair from her forehead, the gesture tender amid the urgency, until his fingers caught on a sticky glob of what turned out to be half-melted holographic emitter goo from the earlier explosion. It stretched between them like cosmic taffy, snapping back to plop squarely on Vexa's pointed ear with a wet asterisk splat asterisk. She froze, crossing her eyes to glare at the offending blob, while Alex's mouth twitched in a barely suppressed grin. Battle trophy," he offered, his voice cracking with awkward humor as a nearby guard stifled a snort, pretending to adjust his visor. Vexa's lips pursed in mock outrage, but the drama of the moment cracked under the absurdity, her ears glowing with that telltale lunaran blush as she flicked the goo away, only for it to sail through the air and land with a asterisk plop asterisk on Lady Nyra's pristine council robe. The stern elder sputtered, swatting at it like a particularly offensive insect, her severe bun wobbling precariously. "Captain Thorne, is this your idea of galactic diplomacy, goo bombardment?" The hall erupted in nervous laughter, cutting through the tension like a laser through fog, even as alarms continued their insistent wail. Vexa dissolved into giggles, leaning against Alex for support, her body shaking with a mix of relief and mirth that made her curves press against him in the most distractingly intimate way. "Humans," she gasped between breaths, "you turn apocalypses into slapstick." But the humor was short-lived, the drama surging back as the Eastern Rift bloomed wider on screen, shadowy tendrils probing like curious fingers toward the palace. "Focus, people," Alex barked, though his cheek still burned from the goo fiasco, wiping his hands on his torn suit only to realize it smeared the mess further, turning his chest into an abstract art piece. He activated the comm link to Earth Command, his voice commanding despite the awkward residue. "Federation, target coordinates 47 Alpha. Vexa's got void sight, sync your barrages to her calls." The response crackled through. "Copy that, Thorne, and nice work on the princess, real HFY style." A chorus of chuckles echoed from the bridge crew, amplifying Alex's embarrassment as Vexa overheard, her eyes twinkling mischievously. HFY style, she teased under her breath, her hand sliding to his waist for a quick, possessive squeeze that sent a jolt through him right as he was mid-order. He stumbled over his words, fire on my, her mark, earning raised eyebrows from the counselors clustered around. Lady Nyra, now goofy but dignity-dented, huffed dramatically. Highness, must this human fondle you during crisis briefings? Some of us are trying to save the Empire. The room tittered again, but Vexa shot back with regal flair, her voice dripping honeyed sarcasm. Lady Nyra, jealousy doesn't suit you. Besides, his fondling just saved your bun from unraveling. The elder's hand flew to her hair, eyes widening comically, and the hall dissolved into full-blown laughter, guards doubling over as plasma cannons roared outside. The levity fueled them, though, heightening the drama as Vexa took charge, her void-enhanced senses painting the battlefield in her mind's eye. Tendril at bearing 230, lance it now, she commanded, and Earth ships obliged, beams slicing through the darkness with surgical precision. Alex coordinated ground forces, dashing to a viewport to direct anti-rift turrets, but in his haste, he tripped over a discarded counselor's datapad, sent tumbling into Vexa's arms with a yelp that echoed like a dropped grenade. She caught him effortlessly, her strength surprising them both, and for a heartbeat, they were chest to chest again, faces inches apart, the awkward intimacy sparking amid the explosions rocking the palace. "Smooth, warrior," she whispered, her lips brushing his ear, sending shivers down his spine as a massive asterisk boom asterisk shook the foundations. "Sorry, goo gravity," he quipped back, disentangling with a sheepish grin, but not before stealing a quick kiss that left her ears glowing brighter than the rift itself. The counselors averted eyes politely, or not so politely, while Lady Nyra muttered, "Scandalous, utterly scandalous." Yet her tone held a reluctant amusement, the humor weaving through the chaos like a safety net, keeping morale sky-high as the battle raged. Outside, the drama peaked in visceral waves, void tendrils lashed at Federation frigates, coiling around hulls with screeching hunger, only for Vexa's precise calls, flank the core, 15 degrees starboard, to guide counterstrikes that severed them in sprays of ethereal ichor. Alex manned a turret console, his shots booming in rhythm with his heartbeat, but awkwardness struck again when a feedback surge zapped his controls, sending a harmless but very asterisk visible static charge arcing to his suit right at the zipper area. He yelped, dancing in place like a man electrocuted by his own charisma, while Vexa howled with laughter, covering her mouth as guards exchanged wide-eyed glances. "Even your suit knows priorities," she called, her voice breathless from directing fire. "Traitorous tech," Alex shot back, recovering with a wink, his face flushed but spirit unbroken. The exchange rallied the room, counselors cheering as his next volley collapsed a tendril swarm, goo and ichor raining harmlessly on shields, but the rift's core pulsed defiantly, birthing a colossal entity that dwarfed the palace, its form a writhing mass of shadow and stolen human tech fragments, warp coils twisted into maw-like jaws. "It's adapting, learning from us," Vexa cried, her void sight revealing the horror's evolution, drama coiling tighter as fear rippled through the hall. In a surge of HFY grit, Alex grabbed the main override panel, sinking it directly to his implant. "Vexa, link with me, use your senses through my fire." Their minds touched again, cleaner now without the parasite, her visions flooding his targeting array, but the intimacy backfired hilariously. Mid-link, her residual void whisper accidentally broadcast a snippet of their balcony memory, a soft moan echoing over speakers. The hall asterisk exploded asterisk in gasps and guffaws, Lady Nyra fanning herself theatrically. "By the stars, control yourselves." Vexa disconnected with a yelp, ears nuclear-red, but Alex laughed through it, channeling the energy into a devastating barrage. For Lunara and awkward timing, beams converged, piercing the entity's core in a blinding flash. The rift imploded with a thunderous asterisk crack asterisk, sucking the beast back to oblivion, debris sparkling like fireworks across the sky. Cheers erupted, bodies piling into hugs and backslaps, but drama lingered in the exhausted aftermath, counselors weeping, guards saluting Vexa as empress-in-waiting. Alex pulled her aside amid the revelry, wiping goo from her cheek with his thumb, their foreheads touching. "We did it, again," she smiled, but awkwardness bloomed as Lady Nyra approached, datapad in hand. "Empress, the treaty, and Captain, do try not to link during signings." The trio burst into laughter, the humor sealing their victory sweeter than any formal decree. Yet, as the celebrations swelled, a subtle tremor shook the console, a final void whisper in Vexa's mind, hinting at dormant seeds across the stars. Alex caught her wince, squeezing her hand. "Whatever's next, we've got this, goo and all." Their bond, forged in drama, awkwardness, and unyielding humor, stood ready for the Empire's new dawn, unbreakable as the stars themselves. As the final peals of laughter from Lady Nyra's quip echoed through the command hall, blending with the swelling tide of cheers that rose like a galactic symphony, Alex kept his hand firmly in Vexa's, their fingers laced together in a grip that felt as natural as breathing. A quiet anchor amid the whirlwind of victory. The console's tremor stilled under her touch, that last void whisper fading into nothingness, leaving only the steady green glow of secured systems and the holographic displays now painting pictures of peace, Federation ships docking gracefully with lunaran spires, counselors embracing guards in tear-streaked relief, and the night sky above finally clear, stars twinkling pure and unmarred. The Empire's new dawn broke not with violence, but with the soft light of twin moons rising, bathing the capital in silver hues that made Vexa's white hair shimmer like a crown of celestial fire. She turned to him then, her violet eyes soft and luminous, reflecting not just the events of the night but a future stretching endless across the stars. "It's over, Alex," she whispered, her voice carrying the weight of a lifetime's burdens lifted, her pointed ears no longer glowing with strain but with the gentle warmth of contentment. The void silenced for now, and forever if we choose it. The hall around them transformed into a celebration in full bloom. Floating trays laden with luminescent fruits and sparkling elixirs wove through the crowd. Music from ancient lunaran lyres mingling with human jazz riffs piped from the Federation ships, creating a harmony that bridged worlds. Counselors danced awkwardly with guards, Lady Nyra even allowing a young officer to twirl her in a stiff but earnest waltz, her severe bun finally loosening into elegant waves. Alex pulled Vexa closer, away from the revelry's edge, guiding her to a wide viewport that framed the reunited fleets like a painting of hope. "We choose it," he replied, his rugged features softening into a smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes, the battle scars on his suit now badges of a story worth telling. Together, no more rifts, no more whispers, just us, building something real. He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small, battered data crystal from his Earth kit, its surface etched with a simple human symbol, 2 interlocking rings. "This was my lucky charm through every mission. Now, it's ours." He pressed it into her palm, their hands closing around it in unison. The crystal humming faintly as her neural link synced it to lunaran archives, a digital vow etched across both empires. Vexa's breath caught, tears glistening like stars on her lashes, but they were tears of joy, pure and unshadowed. She rose on her toes, her lithe form fitting perfectly against his, and kissed him deeply. A kiss that held no urgency of battle or desperation of parting, but the steady promise of tomorrows. Her lips were soft, tasting of sweet elixir and the spice of her world, and as their embrace lingered, the hall's music swelled around them, drawing cheers from those who noticed, their empress and her human hero, sealing fates with a touch. When they parted, she slipped the crystal onto a chain around her neck, nestling it between the elegant curves of her collarbone. "A human talisman for a lunaran heart," she murmured, her fingers tracing his jaw. "Perfect." The celebrations carried them through the night and into dawn, awkward moments weaving seamlessly into joy. Alex attempting a lunaran dance step and nearly toppling into a fruit tray, only for Vexa to catch him with laughter that rang clearer than any bell. Lady Nyra cornering him with a surprisingly warm toast to goo and glory, earning roars of approval, and counselors bombarding them with questions about Earth customs. leading to a hilarious demonstration of human handshakes that left antennae tangled in confusion. Through it all, their bond shone, a beacon drawing people together, lunaran and human alike sharing stories under the moons, forging treaties with handshakes and shared elixirs. The galaxy's first true hybrid council forming right there amid the marble floors. By midday, as shuttles ferried dignitaries between ships and spires, Alex and Vexa slipped away to a private garden atop the palace, a hidden oasis of glowing flora and bubbling crystal springs, where the air smelled of blooming night flowers and fresh possibility. They sat on a bench carved from moonstone, her head on his shoulder, watching as Earth and Lunara flags intertwined on banners fluttering below. "What now?" she asked softly, her hand resting on his knee, the crystal glinting between them. Alex wrapped an arm around her, pulling her close enough to feel her heartbeat sync with his. "Now, we explore. You show me the hidden worlds of Lunara, those forbidden gardens, the crystal caves where stars sing. I take you to Earth, wild oceans, stormy skies, cities that never sleep. We root out any lingering void seeds, together, turning shadows into light." He paused, his voice dropping to that husky timbre she loved. "And every night, we celebrate like last night, but slower, deeper, just us." Vexa smiled, turning to kiss him again, her white hair catching the sunlight like a halo. "And our children," she added, her eyes sparkling with dreams unspoken until now, "they'll inherit the best of both human fire and lunaran grace, ambassadors before they walk." The words hung beautiful and simple, a future painted in broad, hopeful strokes, free of the drama that had forged them. Months blurred into a tapestry of unity. Joint expeditions purged the last void remnants, Vexa's enhanced senses guiding teams to forgotten outposts where human tech fragments were reclaimed and repurposed into beacons of peace. The Galactic Accord was signed under dual suns, Alex at Vexa's side as co-consort, his HFY tales inspiring academies across stars. Awkward moments became legends, the Goo Accords, a humorous treaty clause about not smearing dignitaries during talks, while their love story fueled ballads sung in every language. Years later, in a crystal cave where echoes sang of ancient stars, Alex and Vexa stood with their twin children, boys with his stormy eyes and her pointed ears, hair a mix of brown and white, watching as the kids activated a harmony crystal, its light bursting in rainbows that danced across the walls. "They'll never know a galaxy divided," Vexa said, leaning into him, her gown now a simple silk that hugged her still ravishing form. "And that's the real victory," Alex replied, kissing her temple, his arm around her waist as the family laughed amid the glow. The void was a distant memory, replaced by laughter, love, and endless stars. In the end, it wasn't swords or ships that saved worlds, but a human warrior and his lunaran princess, who dared to claim each other in a dungeon's shadows and built an empire of light from the ashes. Their story echoed across the cosmos, humans fuck yeah, not in conquest, but in connection, proving that love, awkward and fierce, conquers all. And so, under eternal stars, they lived not just happily, but gloriously, forever entwined.